When did this virus become something that was coming across your desk in a work sense?
It's funny, isn't it? I don't remember the date. It's a bit of a blur. It seemed to happen very quickly. It was suddenly something that was happening overseas, and then other countries were shutting down, and then it happened very, very quickly, and I couldn't tell you the date because,
I don't need to know dates.
Yes, yep. I don't remember the moment. For a large part of it, it remains a bit of a blur in my mind.
Well, time didn't really mean anything.
No.
For about 6 months or so, did it?
That's right, and it was quite a traumatic thing for us all to go through. It was so unprecedented and so strange and surreal and like something out of a dystopian movie. It was just a very odd feeling.
By March, if I can help you with that date, there was talk of lockdowns. But before we even got to lockdown, your co-host had to self-isolate. Do you remember that?
I do. They had had an interview with someone on the radio, I believe, who had been in contact with someone. They'd been overseas and there'd been some loose association.
It was a reality program, wasn't it? And the contestant had
come in for an interview. And
yes.
So he ended up self-isolating. In the days when you used to self-isolate, whether you'd walked past someone who might have been near someone with COVID in the street. I had a similar situation later on where I had emceed an event at Spark Arena and a bartender had COVID, and there'd been thousands of people at this particular event. I'd never been to the bar. I was the MC. I went from the green room to the stage, and yet we all had to stay at home for a couple of weeks. Luckily, the rules kind of got a little bit more sensible after that, but that was kind of odd. So yes, going back to Jeremy self-isolating at home, that certainly made it real because you kind of realised, if that can happen at that sort of level, I think there will be a lockdown. It was pretty obvious at that stage that there was going to be a lockdown of some sort.
Yeah, we were sort of moving in that direction.
Definitely.
Weren't we? Yeah. But it was kind of, even the thought of having to self-isolate, stay home and have things delivered and things was just so weird to us.
It was very weird, but weren't we just so good about doing it? If I think about, in Jeremy's case, those early cases where people were self-isolating, they really were sleeping in different bedrooms and being delivered their food and all these sorts of things. And we all signed up for that and did what we were told. And then it happened to all of us.
Lockdown arrives, level 4. What did it mean for you and how you worked and getting to work, that sort of thing? Describe a kind of what became a normal day.
Well, it was an odd normal day. So TVNZ split us up into different teams so that if somebody did get COVID, it wouldn't shut down the whole operation. So they had blue teams and red teams, and they worked on different days. And Jeremy and I, because there weren't teams of Jeremy and Hilary's running around the building, we were in our own bubble. So we were a purple, a mixture of both. So when the Reds were working at home and the Blues were working in the office, and when they, swapped over and the Blues were we were always in the office. So we were a little bit miffed because we never got to work from home. How could we really? But we were there every day, but we were a bubble, just the two of us. And that was both hilarious and bizarre. It was hilarious in the sense that we would turn up and we would occupy a boardroom up on the 4th or 5th floor of the TVNZ building, and we were the only two there, and we had a separate makeup artist come in and just do us. And then we would walk to our makeshift studio, which was on a different floor away from everybody, and we'd sit there and do the show, and that was it. So it was very, very strange. And if we filmed things, we could be together at a distance, but we could film things, and we had to, all the camera operators would have to have really long lenses and film things from an extraordinary distance, and nobody could be touching, and then accidentally you'd touch someone and it's like there'd be a code red and everyone would say, well, you can't use that footage because you can't be seen to be, doing this. And so we tried our very best, obviously to keep up our distancing. But Jeremy and I were our own bubble. We spent a lot of time together. But having said that, I was very lucky because I got to escape my family. That sounds terrible. I got to escape my family. I got to have an alternative to my family bubble. So, it was lovely having everybody at home. It was a very special time for the most part, but I got to leave every day and go and have this other life. And I was very grateful for that, actually, because it was a little bit of normality in amongst the chaos. So I did quite enjoy that. And, of course, TVNZ has a no alcohol policy, but Jeremy and I would have our own little Friday night drinks because we were there and, we'd have a little drink before a Friday night show in lockdown on our own. And that kind of felt nice too. Just sort of trying to do something that you might have done.
Yeah, it's some normality.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a very, very strange time. But the lovely thing about being on air during that time was the connection with people. And so the vibe of our show changed, and we spent the time trying, informative stories about what was going on in COVID and talking to experts and those sorts of things. But we also tried to incorporate a lot of fun and just trying to uplift people, just trying to have a vibe of, yep, we're in it, we feel it with you. But you know what? We're going to try and find some fun stuff to do with you, and we'll try and have a laugh as well, because there weren't many laughs during that time.
Yeah, it was easy to be grim.
Yeah.
What was it like actually coming into work? Describe that.
Oh, it was just so odd and surreal. And, I live on the North Shore in Auckland, and so I'm always dealing with traffic. So never to deal with traffic was very strange. And to begin with, it felt, I was concerned about being pulled over and asked where I was going and what I was doing. So I had a special letter in the car explaining.
Oh, you actually had a letter?
I was it's a joke now. I was an essential worker. Can you believe it? I know you're all laughing at that, but I was there. I was the vibe check person. I was the person cheering people up. So I will not have you tell me I was not an essential worker. I was.
You got it in writing.
I was trying to cheer people up. So yes, I had it in writing in my glove box. I never got pulled over and asked, but
did you kind of wish you would be?
No, I don't. I don't like
would
breaking rules.
Would have been quite good to be able
to.
Well, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
You'd have been able to pull out the letter from the glove box and go, "Excuse me."
Look at this.
Yeah. What really went on with that famous scene of you cutting Jeremy's hair?
Well, with the best of intentions, he was happy for me to cut his hair. And then because we had to film while physical distancing, I said, well, for the cameras, I'll do it like this. And then we'll get our hair and makeup person to do the proper cut, and I'll make it look like I did it. Unfortunately, while we were doing the sort of extended pole with the razor on the end of it, it was an unfortunate accident, and I did take a hack.
So you really did?
I really did do that.
I thought that was fake.
I didn't mean to. No, it was real.
Oh my goodness.
I did not mean to. He forgave me. He was quite relaxed about it.
This was a decent chunk.
It was a decent chunk. Yeah, the awkward thing was I actually went home and did the same thing to my husband. I'm not very good at picking the right comb for the end, but yeah. And I'm a bit rough.
So you can't even blame the
I
boom.
can't really.
No.
I can't really blame the boom. It's my own fault.
To the extent that you want to, tell us about life in the family bubble.
Well, to begin with, our family bubble, I'm trying to think. We had one son. We must have had one son still at university in Wellington. So he came home, and our other son was in his last year of secondary school. So the family was reconnected, and we spent a lot of time eating like everybody else. I think I put on about 7 kilos, a couple of which I may have lost, but certainly at least 5 of them are still there. Look, it was, for the most part, it was a pretty good time. I felt for the kids though, particularly the youngest who was in his last year of school because, he's sporty, he wanted to be with his mates, trying to study for NCEA. All of that was pretty niggly. And yeah, I really, really did feel for him. The uni student was towards the end of his uni, so he could do it online. He was pretty relaxed about things. And then, yeah, for Mike and I, it was just that sort of wider concern about what does this all mean? And, just feeling for the rest of the community, the business, madly buying things from businesses who needed support. You know what I mean? It's just constant deliveries of food we didn't really need just to try and help keep businesses afloat.
Your contribution to the economy.
I know. So much spent. Just yeah.
Give us some examples.
Well, there was one place that made dumplings. And they obviously the people who make dumplings for lots of different Chinese restaurants that do yum cha, because when I was having them delivered over this time, they had a very familiar taste to them. So I thought, you guys supply that restaurant, that restaurant, that restaurant. So a lot of dumplings, steamed. I found ways of steaming them, and they were absolutely delicious. Yes, I can't remember the name of this. Isn't it terrible? Can't remember the name of the business. But then, meat companies, rather than just getting your meat through the supermarket, supporting all the meat companies, because of course they weren't exporting their stuff anymore. The quality of food that you could buy in New Zealand at that time, amazing. Yeah, butter was cheaper, obviously.
Did you guys stockpile anything? Flour, toilet rolls?
What did I stockpile? Probably flour, actually. Not too crazy because I don't want to be a dick about it, but I love baking. And so, yeah, I did need to have the flour, definitely.
Formal Fridays. Just tell us about how it came about to start with.
Formal Friday was not my idea. I was engaged in social media during this time, and someone on Twitter, as it was then, tagged me in and said, look, we're doing this Formal Friday thing to, get everybody dressed up and have a bit of fun on a Friday. Would you get on board and spread the message? And I thought, what a great idea. I'll get on board with that. So the idea was certainly not mine, but I really embraced it because I just thought it was a really fun thing to do. And I thought that we might do it for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Like just have a bit of fun and then we'll move on to something else. But it really resonated with people. It really resonated with people. And it felt really lovely to build this community of people who just wanted to do something like silly during a really serious time. It was like the antithesis of everything we were going through, and every week a group of us would get dressed up on a Friday in whatever you want, whatever you've got there, because no one's going shopping for anything. Put it on and have a blast and share a photo of yourself on social media. And, by the end of it, there were hundreds of people on board. It was a real thing. And to sort of broaden it out, because I thought, I just sort of shared the photo to begin with. And then I thought, I love cooking. And everybody's baking, everybody's around up and down the country baking and sharing recipes. I thought, well, that's something I could do. So I started, doing baking demonstrations in my Formal Friday frocks, which was a bit stupid because I'm very messy in the kitchen. But anyway, I did my best to keep it all clean. And I found this tiara that I had bought for the royal wedding of Harry and Meghan. I had a little viewing party when they got married and we all wore tiaras. So I had this sitting in the cupboard. So I thought, I'll whack the tiara on as well. And just hammed it up and I started this cooking. And lots of people watched and lots of people really enjoyed it. And I thought, you know what? I don't have a lot to do other than going to work each day. I've got plenty of time to do this. And if it makes one person feel a little bit better about their life, then bugger it. I'll keep it up. I'll keep doing this. So Friday would roll around and we'd still be in bloody lockdown. And I'd have to think of something else to do and find some other frock to wear. And luckily I have quite a few formal outfits because I do a bit of emceeing. But there was a point at which we'd been doing it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I was like, I am very close to running out. And so I dusted off my 7th form ball dress, and I found some other thing that had been lying around, and I borrowed stuff off the boys and turned something into a tuxedo. So it became quite a thing. I was starting to
stressful.
feel a little bit of stress and a bit of anxiety about what I was actually going to do each week. But it was fun. And when the kids were at home in lockdown with us, I would make them film it. And it's quite funny because the eldest, if people who were listening could hear it, you could hear him sighing with boredom. As I was doing these cooking demonstrations, you'd just hear Finn in the background go, not realising that the camera could pick it all up. And honestly, people's comments would be going, "Oh, your cameraman." So you're hearing your cameraman so. In the end, I think I found a way of just sort of positioning the camera
Mounting
on
it.
something tall and doing it myself. Because
Avoiding the size.
They were a little bit bored by mother's antics.
Yeah. Well, people weren't bored. They really got on board. And you must have seen some magnificent, I was going to say attempts, but they were actually doing it. Do you have any favourites or any good stories of people who got into it?
There were amazing people, particularly rural folk, because, nothing looks as balmy as somebody dressed up to the nines on a tractor. There was some great Kiwi interpretations of blokes doing, party on the bottom, serious on the top, jandals with a tuxedo. People who would do, mums and babies and dress up similar. There were just so many gorgeous, gorgeous things. And that side of things was really, really lovely. And the thing I found really interesting was that social media was just so toxic over here. And then over here, not just with Formal Friday, because there were lots of other beautiful things happening on social media, was this other area where people were coming together and communities were forming online, as you had to because you couldn't be together. And that was really a lovely thing. And wouldn't it be lovely if social media could be like that all the time?
How do you think COVID changed New Zealand?
I think it's made us a lot more divided. I think people are quick to anger rather than listening to each other. I think they decide on a point of view and they won't be moved from that point of view. And I think they're less open-minded to sort of constructive conversation over issues. I think social media has played a large part in that because people had so much time on their hands, and we know the algorithms are all set up to send people down rabbit holes. And so I feel a sense of sadness over that. I copped a hell of a lot of abuse over COVID because, I had, I believe and still believe, done the right thing and supported the rollout of the vaccine. But the interesting thing about it is this: with all the vitriol that I got over all of those months, and some of it was really nasty to the point of TVNZ saying to me, "Do you want security at your house?" They were really concerned. So nasty. But in all the time since we've been locked down and all the years since, has one person ever come up to me in the flesh and given me grief? No, not one. And that says a couple of things. It says to me, I think, that there aren't as large a number of people online who are, that vitriolic. It's a small group of people with an ability to speak very loudly. They've got a big megaphone. And the other thing it says to me is that it's very easy to sit at home and say really awful things. I mean, death threats, really just the most disgusting things. I wouldn't even repeat them. In fact, I don't even remember them because I don't dwell on that. But they're prepared to do that from their own home, but they haven't got the guts to come up to you and say that to your face. It takes a lot of the power out of it when I reflect on that because, when you start getting all those awful, awful comments, you think, oh my gosh, I can never leave the house again. And then you go, oh, I can absolutely leave the house because actually the small number of people who are creating a little shitstorm over here actually haven't got the balls up to come up to me and have a conversation. Or even not even a conversation, to say the same things that they say online. Not one. And I tell you what, I'm out of the house and around a lot of people. You know, I'm at events where there are hundreds and hundreds of people. Not one person.
Says a lot. Yeah. You're famously brilliant at pulling jiu-jitsu moves on trolls on social media. Do you have any advice for how we should manage on social media that nastiness that has really ramped up since COVID?
I don't engage with the vast majority of it. And I think that is the thing to do. I mean, occasionally when people are being really unreasonable and it's something funny, like someone's complaining that I'm showing too much flesh on air or something like that, I might use a comment to sort of have a laugh. But if somebody is being really vitriolic and nasty, it's block, delete, because the minute you engage, because of the way the algorithms are set up, it amplifies it, and it amplifies them as much as you hitting back. That would be my advice to anybody else who's on social media who feels like they want to engage and sort of get angry. Just don't. Just block and delete. It definitely did feel towards the end like my joie de vivre, my natural instinct, default setting, whatever you like, of being the positive one, had definitely been worn down. And I think what probably wore it down the most towards the end was the rest of the country being out of lockdown and delighting in Auckland. Well, actually, that's not fair. I'm generalising. Some people outside of Auckland delighting in the fact that Auckland, not the people, but Auckland was still in lockdown. And that, after all we'd been through together, that lack of empathy really annoyed me, because we'd been in it together, and then there was this sort of glee amongst some people from different parts of the country that Auckland is just a city full of flash people who are all very, very shallow and awful. That still existed, and that hurt my feelings.